Okay, Sadie has the algebra test score shown. If her goal is to have a test average of 90 or higher, what is the lowest score she can make on her next test and still achieve her goal? Scores are not rounded. Okay, well the first thing that I did was I went ahead and checked to see what her current average is with those 5 scores. So I did 89 plus 88 plus 78 plus 95 plus 92, and that adds up to 442. So it added up to 442, and then I divided it by 5 because so far she has 5 test grades. And when I did that, it told me on the calculator that her current test average is an 88.4. Well, remember, her goal is to pull it up to at least a 90 or higher. Okay? So do you really think if she makes an 88 on the next test, that's going to pull her 88 to a 90? No way. There's no way if she already has an 88 that another 88 is going to pull her to a 90. Do you think a 90 is going to be enough to pull an 88 up to a 90? Probably not, because think about it. The average of a 90 and an 88 would be 89, right? And it's not even going to pull it up that much because that would just be one score of 6. So I would start by looking at 94. Say that 94 is her 6th score. I'm going to add that on to the rest of them. We already know the rest of them were 442. And now I'm going to add on a 94 to that. But now I divide it by what? 6, because now we got 6 test scores. And that gives me an 89.3. Is that enough? No, she wants a 90. So it has to be D, at least a 98. Because if you were to add 98 points to the 442 points she already has, and then divide that by 6, it gives her a 90 even. Okay, exactly a 90. Okay, now turn in your packets to page 9. Yeah, for y'all it's page 9. Okay, last night your homework was 1 through 5 on both sides. Before we continue, did anybody have any questions off the homework? Were there any that you tried and you just had trouble with? None? Okay, well let's start down with number 6 then. Okay, number 6, they want us to convert 6 cups into pints. Okay, well remember the rule is if cups is in the top, cups has to go in the bottom. And what do we know about cups and pints? Remember, you can use the little flip book in your interactive notebook, or you can use the one on the back of this cover page. What do we know about cups and pints? Nobody knows anything? What's it say on the back of your cover page? Right, 1 pint equals 2 cups. 1 pint is 2 cups. So now I'm done with this conversion chain because I've made it to pints, okay? And that was my goal. So I cross out the cups. In the top I have 6 times 1, which is 6, and the bottom 2, and that just becomes 3. All right, 6B, 84 inches. Means that I put inches on the bottom, and we're trying to get to feet. Can we go straight from inches to feet? Yes, because we know every foot has 12 inches. So I'm already done with the conversion chain. I've made it to feet, so I cancel out the other units. Y'all pay attention. I get 84 times 1 on top, 12 on bottom, which is 7. So 84 inches is the same thing as 7 feet. Okay, would anybody like to go to the board, or you can try it on the slate if you want to try 7A? Anybody want to try it on the board? No? Nobody wants to try the slate? Okay, I'll just keep working them then. All right, 7A. Did everybody have that copied? Okay, 20 quarts. Okay, tell me what I got to write next. Okay, well, just quarts, not necessarily 20, but just quarts. Okay, but how many quarts can we put on bottom? 4. And 4 quarts is 1 gallon. So that's another short conversion chain because we're at gallons, which is where we want to be, and quarts cancel out, and you end up with 20 over 4, which is 5. 20 quarts is the same thing as 5 gallons. Okay, 7b. 5 tons equals how many pounds? Well, we start with 5 tons. What do we now put on the bottom? What? I can't hear y'all. 1 ton is the same thing as, right? And so now we're done with our chain because we've made it to pounds. We cancel out tons. And then you end up with 5 times 2,000 on top, which is, and then over 1, so it just remains 10,000. All right, 8A is one that I can be okay with you not having any work for because there's really no work required. 1 yard is how many feet? 3 feet. It's written out for you on your conversion chart, so I can see why you wouldn't need to do any work for that one. Okay, same thing for 8B. It's another one that it's just given to you. 4 quarts is how many gallons? 1. All right, 9A. Now we're converting 4 quarts into how many ounces? So, James, why don't you get us started? What do I do after I write 4 quarts? If I have quarts in the top, doesn't that mean I have to put quarts in the bottom? And tell me something on your paper you see about quarts. Okay, that is true. But remember, we're trying to get down to ounces. So we don't want to go bigger to gallons. We want to go down smaller. So let's go the other way. 1 quart's also equal to 2 pints. Okay, now that pints is in the top, pints goes in the bottom. And now what do we know about pints? Right, 1 pint is 2 cups. And now we put cups in the bottom, and we know that 1 cup is 8 ounces. Okay, so we've made it to our desired units that they want the answer in. We cross out all the other units. 4 times 2 times 2 times 8 is what? 128, and then it would be over just 1, so 128. All right, 9B, 6,000 pounds is how many tons? Well, pounds is in the top, so you put it in the bottom. What do we know about pounds and tons? Right, and so now you're done with your chain. And so you cross out pounds with pounds, and you end up with 6,000 over 2,000, which is 3. Everybody got those copied? All right, 10A. Two feet, this is one that really most of you should be able to do in your head. 2 feet is how many inches? Right, because 1 foot is 12, so 2 feet would be double 12, which is 24. 10B, 15,840 feet is how many miles? Well, if feet starts our conversion chain, that means it needs to go in the bottom. And do we know something that will convert feet directly to miles? Okay, what do we know? 5,280 is 1 mile, right? So now we have made it to our desired units of miles. That's what they want the answer in. So you cancel out feet over feet. And you're left with that on top, that on bottom. When you divide those, you get 3, right. Okay, now turn to page 10. All right, on this worksheet, we're going to have leftovers, or sometimes, like, you'll have to add 2 things together at the end. They want to know how much 4 gallons and 14 ounces is, all in ounces. Well, this is already ounces, right? So we don't have to convert it. We just need to convert the 4 gallons. So 4 gallons is where we start. Since gallons is in the top, it must go in the bottom next. And what's one thing that you know about gallons? Right. 4 quarts is 1 gallon. Okay, but we can't stop there because we're trying to get all the way to ounces. So now we put quarts in the bottom. What do we know about quarts? Right, 1 quart is 2 pints. And now we put pints in the bottom. And what do we know about pints? Right, 1 pint is 2 cups. And then we put cups in the bottom, and we know that 1 cup is 8 ounces. Okay, now we have made it to ounces, so we cross out all the other units. And we multiply straight across. 4 times 4 times 2 times 2 times 8. And what do you get? What do you get when you multiply all those numerators? 512. And then the denominator would just be 1, so you don't have to worry about it. But remember, this is 4 gallons converted to ounces. So 4 gallons equals 512 ounces. So 4 gallons and 14 ounces would be how many total ounces? Yes? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, so now that we know that 4 gallons is 512 ounces, just in the 4 gallons, how much total ounces would this all be? Right, 526. You would just add 512 plus the 14 ounces that were already there, and that would make a total of 526. Okay, 1B, 28 cups equals how many pints and then how many leftover cups? So first we take 28 cups and we're going to convert it to pints. So cups has to go in the bottom. And what do we know about cups? All right, 1 pint is 2 cups. Okay, so now cups and cups cancel each other out, leaving just pints like we wanted. In the top you have 28, in the bottom you have 2, which makes a 14. Now, since it's a whole number, that means there's no leftovers. So it's just 14 whole pints with 0 cups left over. Had it had a point something, that would have mean there's leftovers, and you would have had to figure out what that is in cups, kind of like on the next one. I want to skip 2A and 2B because I feel like 3A is the easiest. So let's start with 3A so you kind of get the idea, and then we'll go back to 2A and 2B. All right, they want to convert 106 feet into yards and then put if there's any leftover feet. So we start with 106 feet, and we're going to take that to yards. Well, if feet's on top, feet goes in the bottom. What do we know about feet to yards? Correct. So now we're finished with our chain because we've made it to yards, which is what they want the answer in. We cancel out feet with feet, and we're left with 106 over 3. Well, what is 106 over 3? Okay, 35.333 repeating, right? Okay, so that means that in 106 feet, there are 35 whole yards. But then obviously there's some leftover. To figure out the leftover, you can figure out how much 35 yards is in feet. Okay, if there's 3 feet in a yard, how many feet are there in 35 yards? So let me say that again. If every single yard has 3 feet in it, how could you figure out how many feet are in 35 yards? Right, and what does that tell you? Right, 105 feet is the same thing as 35 yards, right? So wouldn't 106 feet be 35 whole yards with 1 foot left over? Okay, so now let's look up at 2A. We're trying to convert 19,853 pounds into tons. So I'm going to start my chain with pounds, which means pounds goes on the bottom, and I know that 2,000 pounds is 1 ton. So now I'm finished with the chain because I've made it to tons. I cross out pounds with pounds, and now I just divide 19,853 divided by 2,000. And that gives me what? 9.9265. So that's very close to 10 tons, right? But not quite. There's only 9 whole tons there, right? And then this is all leftover that almost makes another ton, but not quite. So to figure out what this is in pounds, you need to figure out how many pounds are sitting in those 9 tons. If 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, then 9 tons would be how many pounds? Okay, 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. So 9 tons is how many pounds? 18,000. Okay, well look, these 9 tons sitting right here, 18,000 of these pounds. So now can't we just subtract 18,000 from the total? And that'll let you know how many were not used in those 9 tons, which is what? Right. And it makes complete sense that it was almost another ton. We almost had 10 tons because isn't that very close to 2,000 pounds, which would have been another ton? Okay, now you attempt 2B before I go over it with you. Not yet? All right, 44,743 feet. And they want that converted into miles. So feet's in the top, so I put it in the bottom. And I know that there's 5,280 feet in a mile. So I'm done with the conversion chain because I've made it to miles. I cancel out feet over feet. And then that times 1 would just stay 44,743. And I divide it by 5280. And I get 8.474, so I'm just going to put 8.47. So that means that there are 8 whole miles there. So I need to figure out of those 8 miles sitting there, how many feet that is. Okay, well, for every mile, there's this many feet. So how could I figure out what 8 miles is in feet? What would I need to do? If 1 mile is 5,280 feet, what would I need to type in my calculator to figure out 8 miles in feet? Eight times what? All right, you just need to do 8 times 5280, and that would let you know that 8 miles is 42,240 feet. Does that make sense to everybody? And now I'm just going to subtract that from the total that I started with of 44,743, and that lets me know that there's 2,503 feet left over. Now, isn't a number like 2503 pretty close to half of a number like 5280? Isn't that about half? Not quite, but almost. Well, look, that's because it's 0.47. It's almost 0.5, halfway. So that's almost 8.5 miles, which is why the feet you had left over was almost half of 5280. Okay, now go ahead and try 3B. Okay, what did y'all get? 4 cups and 1 ounce is how many ounces? 33, right? Because the 4 cups became 32 ounces, and then you have to remember to add on that 1 ounce to make it a total of 33. Okay, any questions about that one? 5A. We are going to convert 50 ounces into cups and then to ounces. So, Grant, tell me what to do first. Okay. Do we know anything about ounces to cups? Right, 8 ounces in a cup. So now I've finished the chain, and I'm left with 50 times 1 on top and 8 on bottom. And what is 50 divided by 8? 6.25. Okay, so that lets me know that that's 6 cups and then a quarter cup. So I need to convert a quarter of a cup into ounces. Okay, well 1 cup is 8 ounces, so what's a quarter of 8? 2. Okay, or if you're not able to do it that way, like if you can't think of it as a quarter of 8, then you can say, well, 6 cups is 48 ounces, and then that would mean for there to be 50 there, 2 were left over, 48 plus 2. All right, 4B, 224 ounces converted to gallons first. So that means ounces goes on bottom, and we know that there are 8 ounces in a cup. And then cups goes on bottom, and we know that there are 1 or 2 cups in a pint. And then pints goes on bottom, and we know that there are 2 pints in every quart. And then quarts goes on bottom, and we know there's 4 quarts in a gallon. So now I'm finished with the conversion chain because I've made it to gallons. I cancel out all the other units. I'm left with 224 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 on top, so just 224. On the bottom, I'm left with 8 times 2 times 2 times 4, which is 128. And 224 divided by 128 is 1.75. So that's definitely 1 whole gallon, and then 3/4 of a gallon. Well, 1 gallon is how many quarts? 4. So 3/4 of a gallon would be how many quarts? 3. And then there'd be 0 ounces left over. Okay, now turn to page 10. Sorry, I'm looking at last year's packet. All right, on this page, the only difference is that the questions have decimals in them, but you do everything the same. You'll still start your conversion chain with 4.875 miles, and we're trying to convert that into yards. Well, I know that 1 mile is what? Do we know anything about miles to yards? Right. Okay, it's not on your paper, but it is in your little flip book. And so now I'm done with the chain because I've made it to to yards. I cross out the miles, and now you just multiply 4.875 times 1,760, and you get 8,580 yards. You don't do it any different. You're just going to have to type in a decimal when you go to multiply. Okay, so now let's look at 1B. We have 5,940 yards, and we're taking that to miles. Well, we just used that same thing. We know that 1,760 yards is 1 mile. So now I'm finished with the chain. I crossed out the yards, and now I just have 5,940 on top divided by 1,760 on bottom, and that's 3.375 miles. And you can leave it like that because this is not one that makes you write out the leftover yards. Okay? You need to work on 2 through 5 on both sides. You have to show your work, even if it's just what you're typing in. You've got to write that below each one. Okay? And tomorrow I will check it. So 2 through 5 on each side. Make sure you're showing some kind of work, even if it's just what you're typing in the calculator. Just write down exactly what you typed in.